I inherited a dilapidated farm from my wife, while my son owned a $3.5 million mansion in the Southern Hills. When he found out, he called me a useless old man and gave me 22 days to leave. So I drove 2 hours to sleep in a rundown country house I'd never seen before. But when I unlocked the farm with a rusty key, I stood speechless at what I saw inside. Hey everyone, welcome to today's story. Before we start, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Quick note: this is a fictional story created to entertain and spark reflection. Any names, places, or situations are purely coincidental, but the message, that's what matters. Now let's see what Sam found. The mahogany table feels too wide. Helen Sinclair sits at the head leather portfolio, open reading glasses perched on her nose. I'm on one side. Marcus and Jessica sit across from me, my son and his wife both leaning forward like they're watching a game show finale. 7 days since I lost Ginny. 7 days of numbness and casseroles from neighbors I barely know. 7 days of Marcus helping with funeral arrangements, which mostly meant him making calls in the other room while I sat by the window. Now we're here. Helen clears her throat. Thank you both for coming. We'll proceed with the reading of Virginia Caldwell Preston's last will and testament executed October 18, 2022. 6 months before she passed. She knew. She planned. Helen adjusts her glasses. To my beloved son, Marcus James Preston. Marcus straightens. Jessica's hand finds his on the table. I leave the family home located at 4217 Brentwood Circle, Southern Hills, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Appraised value $3.5 million. Jessica gasps softly. Marcus's jaw tightens, but his eyes gleam. Helen continues. Additionally, the investment portfolio managed by Sterling Wealth Management. Current value $6 million. And the entirety of my retirement accounts through Morrison Energy Solutions. Current value $2.5 million. $12 million. I do the math automatically, teacher habit. $12 million to Marcus. Helen turns a page. To my husband, Samuel Preston, my heart thuds. Here it comes. I leave the family property located in Osage County, Oklahoma. 800 acres including farmhouse and outbuildings. County appraisal $180,000. Silence. Marcus blinks. Wait. What? Helen looks up. The Osage County property. Your mother inherited it from her grandparents. It's been in the Caldwell family since 1947. Marcus leans back and I watch his face shift confusion, then calculation, then something like disgust. A farm, that's it. Marcus, I start. Dad gets a dirt farm. He laughs sharp and ugly. Mom left him a falling down house and 800 acres of nothing. Jessica touches his arm. Honey. No, this is insane. Marcus looks at Helen. There has to be a mistake. Dad can't even. He's a retired teacher. He doesn't know anything about farming. That place is worthless. Helen's expression doesn't change. The will is very clear, Marcus. Your mother was quite specific about the distribution. Specific. Marcus shakes his head. Right. Specific. I should say something. I should defend Ginny, defend myself, but my throat is tight. I stare at the folder in Helen's hands, trying to make sense of it. Why the farm? Ginny never talked about it. I'd never even seen it. Helen continues. There's also a sealed letter addressed to Samuel with instructions that it be opened at the property. She slides an envelope across the table. Cream-colored Ginny's handwriting, Sam open at the farm. Trust me. I pick it up. My hands shake. Marcus stands abruptly. This is unbelievable. I'm getting a lawyer. Helen's voice is calm, almost bored. That's your right. But I'll tell you now, your mother's will was drafted by one of the finest estate attorneys in Oklahoma. It's ironclad. If you contest it, you'll spend a lot of money and get the same result. Marcus stares at her, then at me. Dad, you're not seriously going to accept this. My voice cracks. I clear my throat. Your mother wanted me to have the farm. The farm. He spits the word like it's poison. You're 68 years old. You're going to live on some falling down shack in the middle of nowhere. I don't know, I say quietly. I haven't seen it yet. Jessica stands, puts a hand on Marcus's shoulder. We should go, honey. Let your dad process. Marcus grabs his coat. At the door, he stops. You know what, Dad, fine. Enjoy your farm, but don't come crying to me when you realize Mom left you nothing but a tax burden. The door slams. Helen and I sit in silence. She takes off her glasses, rubs the bridge of her nose. I'm sorry you had to witness that, I say. I've seen worse. She looks at me, something like sympathy in her eyes. Sam, your wife loved you very much. I worked with her for over a year on this estate plan. She was very, very deliberate. I don't understand why. Open the letter when you get to the farm, Helen says gently. She wanted you to see it first. I nod, not trusting my voice. She hands me a rusted key. This opens the farmhouse. Osage County, about 2 hours west. The address is on the deed. I take the key. It's heavy, old-fashioned, the kind you don't see anymore. One more thing, Helen says. Your wife mentioned you might have questions. If you do, call me, anytime. Thank you. I drive home, no, not home anymore. I drive to the house Marcus now owns. The house where Ginny and I lived for 18 years. The house where she passed away in our bedroom, holding my hand, whispering, "Trust the farm, Sam." Everything you need is there. I didn't understand then. I don't understand now. It's nearly 8 when Marcus shows up. I'm in the guest room. He already told me the master bedroom is off limits. He's having it refreshed, packing the few things I managed to grab from my old office before the contractors started ripping out Ginny's bookshelves. He doesn't knock, just walks in, a folder in his hand. We need to talk. I sit on the bed. Okay. He hands me the folder. Eviction notice, legal, and everything. You've got until March 29th to vacate the premises. I open it. Official letterhead. Notice to vacate. 22 days. Marcus, this is my house now, Dad. Jessica and I are starting a family. We need the space. He crosses his arms. You've got the farm. You can live there. I haven't even seen it. Then you'd better go see it. His voice is flat. Look, I'm not trying to be harsh, but Mom made her choice. She left you property. Use it. He turns to leave, pauses at the door. Oh, and Dad, don't take anything valuable when you go. I've got an inventory list. The silver, the art, Mom's jewelry, it's all mine. It was in the house, so it's part of the estate. Marcus. But he's already gone. I sit alone in the guest room of what used to be my home, holding a rusted key and an eviction notice. Outside, I hear Marcus on the phone laughing about something. I look at the envelope Helen gave me. Ginny's handwriting. Trust me. Ginny. I whisper to the empty room, what did you leave me? The key weighs heavy in my palm. 22 days until I have to leave. 22 days to figure out why my wife of 40 years left me 800 acres of dirt in the middle of nowhere. The sound of diesel engines pulls me from restless sleep. 6 a.m., and the house is already shaking. I stumble to the window. 3 contractor trucks in the driveway. White vans with Morrison Brothers construction on the side. Men in hard hats. Unload equipment. Toolboxes, extension cords. a rolling dumpster that scrapes against the concrete. Marcus stands on the front porch in a suit coffee mug in hand, gesturing toward the east wing. Ginny's office. I throw on yesterday's clothes and rush downstairs. The front door is open. Cold March air pours in. I can hear voices, heavy boots on hardwood. "Excuse me," I start. One of the workers nearly runs into me carrying a drill. "Morning, sir. You'll want to stay clear. Demo day. Demo day." Like it's just another job. I follow the noise to Ginny's office. The door is wide open. Two men are already pulling books off the shelves, tossing them into black trash bags. A third is unscrewing the brass nameplate from the door, Virginia C. Preston, CEO. "Wait!" My voice cracks. Those are her books. Her suktad. Marcus appears behind me, still holding his coffee. "These guys are on a schedule. Let them work." "You didn't tell me they were coming today?" "I told you renovations start this week." He sips his coffee. "This is week 1. I watch a worker grab a framed photo off Ginny's desk, us at the ribbon cutting for Morrison Energy's first office, 1997. She's in a hard hat, grinning. I'm beside her, proud. "Wait, that's..." I step forward. "Can I have that?" The worker looks at Marcus. Marcus looks at me. The frame is sterling silver, Dad. $1,800. It stays. "I don't want the frame, I want the photo. The photo's in the frame." Marcus nods to the worker. "Dumpster." The worker carries it past me. I watch it disappear into the hallway. Another worker is prying Ginny's desk drawers open with a crowbar. The wood splinters. I feel something crack in my chest. "Marcus, please. Your bedroom's next," he says. "Movers come at noon to clear it out. Guest room only, remember, I can't watch anymore." I retreat upstairs, ears ringing with the sound of her life being dismantled. In the guest room, I sit on the narrow bed 21 days, until I have to leave this house and pull out my wallet. Inside a photo, the one thing I made sure to grab yesterday, Ginny and me on our wedding day. June 18th, 1983. I was 28, a high school history teacher making $26,000 a year. She was 24, fresh out of grad school with a geology degree and a job offer from an oil company I'd never heard of. We got married at the courthouse. No fancy reception. Just us two witnesses and a honeymoon weekend in Branson. 2 years later, Marcus was born. I took a week off from teaching. Ginny took 3 months, then went back to work. She hated being home. Loved the field work, the rigs, the negotiations. I didn't mind. I loved teaching. Loved summers off. Loved that our son had a mother who was brilliant and driven and didn't apologize for it. 1995. Ginny started her own company, Morrison Energy Solutions. I was skeptical we had a mortgage, a 10-year-old kid, but she was certain. "Sam, I know this industry. I know how to do this." She was right. By 2000, she was a millionaire. By 2005, we bought the Southern Hills house. I was still teaching. She'd offered to let me retire early, but I always said no. I liked my work, liked my students. Marcus grew up in that house, grew up wealthy. Private school, new cars, ski trips. I watched him drift away from us, or maybe just from me. He was always more interested in money than people. August 2021. Ginny came home from a doctor's appointment, sat me down in the kitchen, and said 4 words. "It's stage 3 cancer. 18 months, they said. Maybe less." I took early retirement, spent every day with her. But even then, even as the treatments drained her, she kept secrets. Trips to Osage County she wouldn't explain. Meetings with Helen Sinclair behind closed doors. Her office door locked more often than not. "What are you working on?" I'd ask. "Just tying up loose ends," she'd say. Don't worry. I should have pushed, but she was fighting so hard just to stay alive. I didn't want to add more weight. February 27th, 2023. Hospice bed set up in our bedroom. Marcus visited for 20 minutes, took a phone call, left. That night, Ginny could barely speak, but she held my hand, pulled me close. Sam. Her voice was a whisper. Trust the farm. What? The farm in Osage County. Everything you need is there. She squeezed my hand. Don't let Marcus take it. Promise me. I didn't understand, but I promised. I won't let him take it. Good. Her eyes closed. I love you. 40 years wasn't enough. It was everything, I whispered. She passed away the next morning. February 28th. 64 years old. The funeral was small. Helen Sinclair came. A few people from Morrison Energy, and strangely Victor Hartman, Ginny's old competitor, the man she used to complain about at dinner. He stood in the back, didn't offer condolences, just watched. I thought it was odd, but grief makes everything feel surreal. Now sitting in the guest room, I hear drilling downstairs. They're tearing apart her office, the place where she built an empire. I look at the wedding photo. She's smiling, 24, and fearless. I don't know what you left me, Ginny, I whisper, but I'll trust you. March 14th, 16 days left. I was carrying the last box to my car when Marcus pulled into the driveway. A silver Lexus parked behind him. A man in a navy suit climbed out, mid-50s, thin briefcase in hand. He smoothed his tie and followed Marcus up the walk. Dad, this is Richard Moss, Marcus said. Elder care specialist. We need to talk. I set the box down. About what? Your future. Marcus opened the front door without waiting. Inside. In the dining room, Moss spread a blue folder across the table. The top page read, General Durable Power of Attorney, in bold capital letters. Mr. Preston. Moss began, voice smooth as oil. Your son is concerned about your welfare. This document authorizes him to manage your finances, property, and medical decisions during your transition to a safer living arrangement. I pulled the document closer. The print was small, dense. I scanned the first page. The principal hereby grants the agent irrevocable authority over all bank accounts, real property, including parcels in Osage County investment portfolios and healthcare decisions, effective immediately upon execution. Irrevocable, I said slowly. That means I can't change my mind. Moss nodded. Correct. It ensures continuity of care. I flipped to page 3. A section was highlighted in yellow. Section 12, Emergency Guardianship. In the event the principal is deemed unable to manage his own affairs, the agent may petition the court for full guardianship without prior notice. My chest tightened. You want control of everything, including the farm. Marcus leaned forward, elbows on the table. Dad, the county filed a tax lien. $15,000 in back taxes. If you don't pay by May 21st, they auction the place off. He tapped the paper. Sign this and I'll take care of it. You won't have to worry about anything. And if I don't sign? Moss tilted his head. Then we proceed under Oklahoma Statute 30-3-101. Your son can petition for emergency guardianship on the grounds that you're living alone at 68, recently widowed with no stable income. A judge would likely grant temporary custody of your assets within 72 hours. I looked at Marcus. For a second, I saw him at 8 years old crying when his goldfish passed away, asking me if it hurt to stop swimming. Then his jaw tightened and the memory vanished. You'd do that? I asked quietly. I'm trying to help you, Dad. You're not thinking clearly. I closed the folder and slid it back across the table. Get out. Moss stood snapping his briefcase shut. Marcus didn't move. You've got 2 weeks, he said. Think about it. Because if you don't sign, I'll file the petition, and a judge will decide for you. I didn't answer. The door slammed. I sat alone at the dining table, staring at the blue folder. Outside, the Lexus engine purred to life. Ginny's voice echoed in my head. Trust the farm. 5 days later, March 19th. I was clearing out the guest room when I noticed the recycling bin by the curb overflowing with papers. Marcus had been tossing files all week. I dragged the bin back to sort it, and a clean manila folder slipped out onto the driveway. The tab read, Dad. Residential options in Jessica's loopy handwriting. I opened it. Inside were glossy brochures for Sunset Meadows Senior Living, Elk City, Oklahoma. The cover showed a low brick building surrounded by flat brown grass. Inside photos featured a dining hall with fluorescent lights, plastic trays, residents in wheelchairs staring at a muted television. Beneath the brochures was a printed contract. Resident name Samuel Preston. Accommodation shared occupancy, Wing B. Monthly rate $2,800. Security deposit $5,600. Non-refundable move-in date. April 20th, 2023, authorized by Marcus Preston. Power of attorney. The signature line for resident was blank, waiting for me to sign Moss's blue folder. Then I saw the date at the bottom. Executed January 28th, 2023. I read it again. January 28th. 1 month before Ginny passed away. While she was still alive, bedridden, fighting for every breath, Marcus had already signed a contract to lock me away. My hands shook. I pulled out my phone and searched Sunset Meadows, Elk City, Oklahoma reviews. 2.1 stars. 47 reviews. My father was left in a soiled bed for 6 hours. Staff ignored the call button. I reported it, nothing changed. The food is inedible. My mother lost 12 pounds in 2 months. When I complained, they said she was adjusting. Roaches in the bathroom. Management promised an exterminator. Never happened. Mother's wedding ring disappeared from her room. Staff claimed she lost it. No investigation, no apology. I took photos of every page contract brochure reviews. Then I walked to my car, opened the trunk, and hid the folder under a wool blanket and a toolbox. Back inside, I sat on the edge of the guest bed. 11 days left. Marcus had planned this while Ginny was dying. The lawyer, the facility, the timeline, it was all ready. All he needed was my signature. I picked up the framed photo on the nightstand. Ginny in her hard hat at the First Oil Derrick 1996, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. Did you know, I thought? Did you see this coming? Outside, a dog barked. A truck rumbled down the street. I set the photo in my duffel bag, turned off the light, and lay awake in the dark, counting down. 11 days until I could leave. 11 days until I found out what Ginny left me at the farm. March 27th. 2 days left. The envelope arrived in the afternoon mail, thick, cream-colored return address, Osage County Tax Assessor. I tore it open, standing by the mailbox. Notice of delinquent property. Tax property, 800 acres. Section 14, Township 25, North Range, 8 East. Owner, Samuel Preston. Amount, due $18,577. 43 deadline. May 21st, 2023. Penalty for non-payment property, subject to public auction, per OK Stat. Title 68. Section 3125. I read it twice. $18,577, due in less than 2 months. My teacher's pension paid $2,100 a month. Even if I stopped eating, I couldn't cover it. I folded the notice and walked inside. Marcus was in the living room scrolling his phone. He didn't look up. "Got something in the mail," I said. He glanced at the paper. "Yeah, the lien. I told you about that last week. You said 15,000. I rounded down, penalties add up." He set his phone on the coffee table. "Look, Dad, I've been thinking. You can't pay this. The farm's worthless 800 acres of dirt and a falling down house. But I'll take it off your hands. 50,000 cash. You can rent a place in town live comfortably." I stared at him. 50,000. More than it's worth. I'm being generous. And the taxes. I'll handle them. Consider it a family favor. I folded the notice into my pocket. "I'll think about it." Marcus picked up his phone again. "Deadline's May 21st. After that, the county takes it and you get nothing." I walked upstairs without answering. That evening, my phone rang. Helen Sinclair. "Sam, do you have a minute?" I stepped onto the back porch. The yard was dark. The tulip bed Marcus had bulldozed, now just a rectangle of mud. "Yeah, I have a minute. I heard Marcus made you an offer on the farm. 50,000. How'd you know?" "Because he called me this afternoon asking if the estate could waive the tax lien." She paused. "I told him no, the lien is valid, and Ginny left specific instructions that the farm stays with you." "Helen, I can't pay $18,000. My pension barely covers rent." "I know, but that farm is worth far more than Marcus is offering. Don't sell. Not to him, not to anyone. Not yet." I gripped the porch rail. "Then what do I do?" "You go to the farm on March 29th like Ginny asked. You open the envelope. Everything you need is there." "Helen, I need more than riddles. If I lose that land, you won't." Her voice was firm. "Sam, Ginny placed the farm in an irrevocable trust 18 months ago. It's titled solely in your name. No power of attorney, no probate court, no creditor can touch it. Marcus has no legal claim." I sank into the porch chair. "Then why is he pushing so hard?" "Because he knows something you don't, and Ginny knew he'd come after it." She paused. "There's more in that envelope than you think. Trust her. 2 more days. What if the county auctions it off? They won't. The trust includes a provision for delinquent taxes. I've already filed an extension request with the assessor's office. You have until June 30th to settle the lien." My chest loosened slightly. "You're sure?" "Positive. Ginny thought of everything." Helen's tone softened. "Sam, I can't tell you what's in that envelope. She made me promise. But I can tell you this, she spent 2 years preparing for this moment. She knew Marcus would try exactly what he's trying. Don't let him win." I looked out at the dark yard. Somewhere a dog barked. A car passed on the street, headlights sweeping across the fence. "Okay," I said quietly. "I'll wait." "Good. And Sam, don't sign anything. Not the POA, not a sales contract, nothing. If Marcus pressures you, call me." "I will." 2 days. Then you'll understand." She hung up. I sat on the porch for a long time, the tax notice heavy in my pocket. Helen's words circling in my head. The farm is worth far more than Marcus is offering. The next morning, I drove to Helen's office. She was waiting in the conference room with a plain manila envelope the same size as the one from the will reading. She slid it across the table. "This is the second letter," she said. "Ginny left it with instructions to give it to you on March 28th. one day before you're supposed to open the sealed envelope at the farm. I picked it up. My name was written on the front in Ginny's handwriting, strong, slanted, unmistakable. What's in it? I don't know. She sealed it herself. Helen folded her hands. But she told me to remind you of 3 things. First, the farm is protected. Second, you have more resources than you think. Third, she paused. She said, tell him I'm still looking out for him even now. My throat tightened. I nodded. Helen stood. Go to the farm tomorrow, Sam. Open both envelopes. And don't let Marcus follow you. I left the office, clutching the envelope, my mind racing. The farm is worth far more. Irrevocable trust. Everything you need is there. I sat in my truck in the parking lot and stared at Ginny's handwriting. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the asphalt. 2 blocks away, a church bell rang 6 times. I thought of the tax notice, Marcus's $50,000 offer, the POA, Sunset Meadows, the blue folder. Then I thought of Ginny in her hard hat, standing in the wheat field, the summer before she got sick, shading her eyes against the sun, saying, "This land has been good to us, Sam. It's got one more gift left." I started the engine and pulled onto the road. One more day. Tomorrow I'd find out what she'd been protecting me from and what she'd left behind. March 28th. 1 day left. I woke to the grinding roar of a diesel engine in the backyard. I threw on jeans and stumbled downstairs. Through the kitchen window, I saw a yellow bulldozer tearing through Ginny's rose garden. I ran outside barefoot. Stop, stop. The operator, a kid in a high-vis vest, killed the engine. Marcus appeared from around the side of the house, clipboard in hand. "What are you doing?" I shouted. "Landscaping crew," Marcus said calmly. "I'm putting in a pool, breaking ground today." That's Ginny's garden. It was Ginny's garden. This is my house now. He turned to the operator. "Keep going." The engine roared back to life. The blade bit into the soil, ripping through tea roses, lavender daylilies. 20 years of careful planting, torn up in seconds. I stood frozen, chest-tight, fists clenched. Then I saw it, one bush, still standing at the far edge, untouched. The yellow rose. Ginny had planted it on our 25th wedding anniversary, June 18th, 2008. She'd chosen yellow because it was the color she wore the day we met. Every June it bloomed bright as sunlight. I walked past Marcus, past the bulldozer, and knelt in the dirt. The bush was small, maybe 3 feet tall, roots shallow. I started digging with my hands. "Dad, what are you doing?" I didn't answer. I dug faster, scooping soil, tearing roots free. My fingers hit a rock. I shoved it aside. The bush came loose. I lifted it carefully, cradling the root ball dirt crumbling down my forearms. Marcus stepped closer. "You can't take that." I turned and looked at him. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I walked past him toward my truck, the rose bush in my arm's soil trailing behind me like a wound. "Dad!" I kept walking. I laid the bush gently in the truck bed, wrapped the roots in a tarp I found behind the seat, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, Marcus stood in the driveway, phone to his ear, watching me leave. That afternoon, I replanted the yellow rose in a whiskey barrel on the farmhouse porch. The house was small, wood frame, badly weathered porch, sagging paint-peeling screens torn. But it was quiet, and it was mine. I watered the rose until the soil darkened, then sat on the porch steps and stared at the fields. 800 acres of wheat stubble stretched to the horizon. No neighbors, no bulldozers, just wind and sky. I thought about the sealed envelope waiting inside Helen's words. Everything you need is there, and Ginny's voice echoing in my head. Trust the farm. One more day. Tomorrow I'd open it. Tomorrow I'd know. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay on an old cot in the front room windows, open, listening to crickets. Around 11 I heard my phone buzz, a text from Marcus. Thought about my offer, $50,000 is on the table until Friday. I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, the phone rang. I saw Marcus's name on the screen. I almost declined, then stopped. Something made me answer and mute my side immediately. Marcus didn't know I was listening. Yeah, I'm at the house. His voice was low, tense. He drove out to that dump today. Took a damn rose bush. A pause. Someone else was talking, but I couldn't hear them. I know. But the tax lien's only $18,000. If he figures out what's under that land. Another pause. Drilling rights. The whole section. If he finds out before I get him to sign, we lose the leverage. My pulse quickened. I fumbled for the voice recorder app on my phone and hit record. Guardianship petition's ready. Moss said we can file Monday if he doesn't sell. Then we move him into that place in Elk City and I take over as conservator. After that, the land's ours. I barely breathed. No, he doesn't suspect. Helen's been feeding him some line about a trust, but she doesn't know the whole picture. Neither does he. Marcus laughed, short, bitter. Guy taught high school for 40 years. He has no idea what he's sitting on. Silence. Then Marcus again. Friday. If he doesn't sell by Friday, we go to court. I'm not waiting anymore. The call ended. I sat in the dark, heart pounding, the recording still running. I stopped it and played it back. Marcus's voice came through clear. Drilling rights. The whole section. Guardianship petition. Move him into that place in Elk City. I saved the file, backed it up to the cloud, and labeled it March 28th, Marcus call. Then I lay back on the cot and stared at the ceiling. Outside, the wind rattled the screens. A coyote yipped somewhere far off. Marcus wasn't offering $50,000 out of generosity. He was trying to steal something. Something under this land. Something worth more than he'd ever admit. And Ginny had known. I thought of the sealed envelope in my duffel bag. The irrevocable trust. Helen's warning. The 25-year-old yellow rose now planted on the porch. Tomorrow I'd open that envelope. Tomorrow I'd find out what Ginny had been protecting and what Marcus was trying to take. I closed my eyes, but I didn't sleep. I just listened to the wind and waited for dawn. March 29th, 6 a.m. Sunlight slanted through the tall windows of the guest room, throwing long shadows across the bare floor. I'd already packed one duffel bag, a cardboard box of books, Ginny's framed photo wrapped in a towel. Everything else Marcus could keep. I was folding the last shirt when I found the note. It was tucked into the pocket of Ginny's old cardigan, the gray one she used to wear on cool mornings. I'd grabbed it from her closet 2 weeks ago before Marcus cleared the room. The paper was small, torn from a notepad, the ink faded but still readable. Check barn attic. Insurance box. Trust Helen and Earl. I stared at the words, barn attic. I didn't even know the old barn had an attic. And who was Earl? I folded the note carefully and put it in my wallet next to the photo of Ginny in her hard hat. Then I walked downstairs one last time. The house felt hollow. Rooms that had once held birthday parties, Christmas mornings, arguments over curfew, now just empty boxes with scuffed floors and nail holes in the walls. In the living room, the leather couch was gone. In the kitchen, the table where Ginny and I used to drink coffee and read the Sunday paper, gone. Even the curtains were down. I stood in the doorway of Ginny's office. The bookshelves were bare. The desk was gone. Only the outline remained on the hardwood where it had sat for 20 years. I thought of the bulldozer tearing through her roses, the contractor hauling away her filing cabinets, Marcus erasing 40 years like it was nothing. I turned and walked to the front door. Marcus was waiting on the porch, leaning against the rail, arms crossed. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, tie loose. "Leaving already?" "Yeah." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded check. "Look, I know things have been tense. Let's end this the right way. 25,000. Cash it today, walk away clean." I stared at the check. 2 days ago he'd offered 50, now 25. Desperation smelled like expensive cologne and sweat. No. "Dad, be reasonable. That farm is falling apart. The land's worthless. You're 70, 68. You don't need the headache. Take the money. Rent a nice apartment. Enjoy retirement." I looked at him for a long moment. Somewhere behind his eyes, I searched for the kid who used to help Ginny plant tulips, who cried over a goldfish, who called me every Sunday from college. I didn't find him. I took the check, tore it in half, then in quarters, and handed the pieces back. "I'll take my chances." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You're making a mistake." I picked up my duffel bag and walked to the truck. Behind me, I heard Marcus shout something, but I didn't stop. I set the bag in the passenger seat, climbed in, and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, Marcus stood on the porch, hands in his pockets, watching me drive away. I turned onto the street and didn't look back. The drive to Osage County took 2 hours. I left Tulsa behind suburbs, strip malls, traffic lights, and headed west on Highway 412. The land opened up flat fields, scattered oaks, barbed wire fences, billboards for cattle auctions and church revivals. A hand-painted sign that read, "Fresh eggs, $3 per dozen." I passed through Skiatook, then Hominy. The towns got smaller. Grain elevators rose against the sky like monuments. Pickup trucks outnumbered sedans. Every third mailbox had a name I recognized from high school. Around 8:30, I turned onto County Road 3700, a narrow 2-lane blacktop that cut through endless wheat fields. The wheat was winter-planted, still green, ankle-high. In a few months, it would turn gold. Right now, it just looked fragile. 10 miles down the road, I saw the mailbox, Preston, painted in faded black letters. I turned onto the gravel drive. The farmhouse sat a quarter-mile back from the road. Small wood frame, white paint, peeling roof sagging on one corner. The porch steps were crooked. One shutter hung loose. Behind the house stood the barn, a massive red structure listing slightly to the left, half the roof covered in rust. I parked in the dirt yard and killed the engine. Silence. No traffic, no voices, just wind through the wheat and the creak of the barn door swinging on a broken hinge. I got out and looked around. 800 acres. It stretched in every direction, flat, empty, dotted with a few scrub oaks and fence posts. The kind of land people drove past without a second glance. Marcus was right. It looked worthless. I thought of his $25,000 check torn into pieces. The tax lien, the guardianship petition, the overheard phone call, drilling rights, the whole section. He has no idea what he's sitting on. I pulled Ginny's note from my wallet and read it again. Check, barn attic. Insurance box. Then I looked at the house. The rusted key was still in my pocket, the one Helen had given me at the will reading. I climbed the porch steps. The boards groaned under my weight. The yellow rose I'd planted yesterday sat in its whiskey barrel by the door, already looking stronger. I slid the key into the lock. It turned. I pushed the door open. Dust motes floated in the dim light. The air smelled like old wood and mice. A single-room kitchen, living area, bedroom behind a curtain. Bare except for a metal frame cot, a card table, and a trunk shoved against the far wall. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. On the table sat 2 envelopes, one from the will reading sealed with red wax, one from Helen's office, my name in Ginny's handwriting. I set down my duffel bag, walked to the table, and picked up the sealed envelope. Outside, the wind rattled the windows. I whispered, "Okay, Ginny, show me." Then I broke the seal. "Before I open that envelope and show you what Ginny left inside, drop a comment with the word trust if you're still with me. I want to know how many of you made it this far." Quick reminder. Parts of this story include fictionalized details for storytelling purposes. If that's not your thing, feel free to close the video now. But if you want to know what was hidden in that barn attic for 22 years, stay right here. March 29th, 3 p.m. I sat at the card table staring at the 2 envelopes. Outside, the wind gusted against the farmhouse, rattling loose boards. The yellow rose on the porch swayed in its barrel. I picked up the envelope from Helen's office, the one she'd given me yesterday, Ginny's handwriting across the front. I tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Sam, by now you're at the farm. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you everything while I was still here, but some things are safer written than spoken. Go to the barn. Attic access is in the northwest corner behind the hay bales. There's a trunk. The rusted key from the will reading opens it. Everything you need is inside. I love you. I always have. G." I read it twice, folded it carefully, and put it in my wallet next to her note about the insurance box. Then I grabbed a flashlight from the truck and walked to the barn. The barn was massive, 3 stories of weathered red wood roof, patched with tin double doors, hanging crooked on iron hinges. I pulled one door open. It groaned like an old man getting out of bed. Inside, the air smelled like dry hay and motor oil. Afternoon sunlight slanted through gaps in the walls, throwing bars of light across the dirt floor. An old tractor sat in one corner, tires flat, engine rusted. Hay bales were stacked along the west wall, covered in dust. I walked to the northwest corner. Behind the bales, I found a narrow ladder nailed to the wall, leading up into darkness. I climbed. The attic was low-ceilinged, full of cobwebs and the scent of old wood. I swept the flashlight beam across the space. Cardboard boxes, a broken chair, and in the far corner, under a canvas tarp, a trunk. It was old, military-style, olive drab, latched with a heavy brass padlock. I pulled the rusted key from my pocket, slid it into the lock, and turned. The lock clicked open. I lifted the lid. Inside were 4 folders, neatly labeled in Ginny's handwriting: Geological Survey, Marcus, Evidence red tab, Victor Hartman, Conspiracy blue tab, Trust documents. On top of the folders lay a sealed envelope, addressed to me in Ginny's hand. I opened it with shaking fingers. "Sam, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and Marcus has already tried to take the farm. I need you to know 3 things. First, Marcus stole $370,000 from us over 18 months. He forged my signature on withdrawal slips, moved money through shell accounts, and lied to our accountant. The red folder has proof: bank statements, surveillance photos, forged documents. I discovered it in September 2022. I didn't confront him. I set a trap instead. Second, Marcus has been conspiring with a rival oil executive since September 2021. They plan to force you into a nursing facility, take control of the farm through a fraudulent guardianship petition, and sell the land for drilling rights. The blue folder has emails, contracts, wire transfers, everything you need to stop him. Third, this farm sits on top of a Mississippian lime shale formation. Geological surveys estimate $25 million in recoverable oil. I've already negotiated a partnership with Morrison Energy. They'll drill at no cost to you. You keep 75% of net royalties, roughly $2 to $3 million per year. The trust documents folder explains everything. I placed the farm in an irrevocable trust in your name. Marcus cannot touch it. No power of attorney, no guardianship petition, no creditor can take it from you. Section 47C includes an ethics clause. If Marcus contests the will attempts fraud or partners with certain named individuals, he forfeits his entire inheritance and faces federal prosecution. Helen has copies. She'll protect you. Sam, I know this hurts. I know you want to believe Marcus is still the boy who helped me plant roses, but he isn't. He made his choices. Don't forgive him. Don't let him charm his way back. Protect yourself. Protect this land. It's your future now. I love you more than I ever said. Trust the farm. Ginny. I read the letter 3 times. My hands shook. My chest felt tight like someone had wrapped a belt around my ribs and pulled. $370,000. 18 months. Shell accounts. Forged signatures. While Ginny was dying, I set the letter down and opened the red folder. The first page was a handwritten timeline in Ginny's neat script. Marcus Preston. Embezzlement timeline, July 15th, 2021, $45,000, withdrawn from Morrison Energy operating account. Forged signature on authorization form. Funds transferred to account ending in 7743. Marcus personal hunch, November 3rd, 2021, $85,000, withdrawn from joint investment account Fidelity. Forged POA submitted to bank. Surveillance photo shows Marcus at teller window, 2:47 p.m. May 22, 2022, $120,000, withdrawn from retirement fund penalty, waived via fraudulent hardship claim. Notarized document signature does not match exemplar. January 10, 2023, $120,000, withdrawn from Morrison Energy executive bonus account. Electronic transfer. IP trace to Marcus's home office. Total $370,000. Beneath the timeline were bank statements highlighted in yellow. Withdrawal slips with Ginny's signature, except the handwriting was wrong, the loops too tight, the slant too steep. Surveillance stills from the Fidelity branch, Marcus in a suit handing paperwork to a teller. A notary seal on a hardship form dated 3 days after Ginny's cancer diagnosis. At the bottom of the folder, a handwritten note on a sticky tab, discovered September 12th, 2022. Monitored for 6 months. Documented every transfer. Let him think he got away with it. Set the trap. Gee, I closed the folder. My stomach turned. I stood up too fast and had to grab the edge of the trunk to steady myself. Marcus had stolen from us while Ginny was bedridden, while she couldn't walk to the kitchen without help. While I was reading to her at night, holding her hand, telling her everything would be okay. He'd forged her name, lied to banks, spent 18 months bleeding us dry. And Ginny had known. She'd watched him do it, documented every crime, built a case so airtight he couldn't wriggle free. I thought of the will reading, Marcus sitting across from me, bored, checking his phone. The $50,000 offer. The $25,000 check I'd torn up this morning. He hadn't been generous. He'd been desperate. I sat down on the attic floor back against the trunk and stared at the red folder. Outside, a crow cawed. The wind rattled the barn roof. I whispered, "You're not my son." Then I put the letter and the red folder back in the trunk, closed the lid, and climbed down the ladder. I had work to do. March 29th, 6 p.m. I sat at the card table in the farmhouse, the trunk open beside me, the red folder still heavy in my hands. Outside, the sun was setting, throwing long shadows across the wheat fields. The temperature had dropped. I could see my breath. I set the red folder aside and pulled out the blue one. The tab read, Victor Hartman, Conspiracy in Ginny's Angular Script. I opened it. The first page was a summary handwritten by Ginny dated October 15, 2022. Victor Hartman, background competitor in Oklahoma oil and gas for 20 years. Lost 3 major lease bids to Morrison Energy between 2005 and 2018. Personal grudge. Attempted hostile acquisition of Morrison in 2016. Failed. Known for aggressive tactics, legal gray areas, and buying distressed properties at auction. Sam, this man hates me. And now he's using our son to destroy you. First contact with Marcus September 2nd, 2021. 18 months of coordination. Do not underestimate him. Do not negotiate. G. I turned the page. The next document was a printed email chain, highlighted and annotated in Ginny's pen. From v.hartman@hartmanoilgas.com to marcuspreston.cpa@. Date September 2nd, 2021, 11:42 p.m. Subject Opportunity Marcus. We met briefly at the Tulsa Energy Forum last spring. I've been following your mother's company for years. Impressive operation. I'm reaching out because I believe there's a business opportunity that could benefit us both. Your parents own an 800-acre parcel in Osage County. Geological data suggests significant untapped reserves. If you're interested in discussing a partnership, let's meet. Discreetly. Victor Hartman, CEO, Hartman Oil and Gas. Ginny had circled discreetly and written in the margin red flag. He knew about the reserves before Marcus did. The next email dated September 9th, 2021, from marcuspreston.cpa@2v.hartman@hartmanoilgas.com. Subject RE Opportunity, Victor interested. Parents don't know the land's value. What are you proposing? Ginny's note. Marcus sold us out in one sentence. I turned the page. Text message screenshots printed and stapled. October 2021. Victor, October 14th, 10:47 p.m. Need geological survey. Can you access your mother's files? Marcus, October 14th, 11:03 p.m. She keeps everything locked. I'll try. Victor, October 22nd, 9:15 a.m. Time is money. Find a way. Marcus, October 22nd, 10:08 a.m. Working on it. Beneath the texts, a bank record wire transfer dated November 28, 2021. Hartman Oil and Gas, LLC to Marcus Preston. $50,000. Memo line consulting services. Ginny's note, first payment. Marcus became a paid informant against his own family. I felt my jaw tighten. I kept reading. January 10th, 2022. An internal Morrison Energy memo stamped confidential with a sticky note from Ginny Geological Survey disappeared from my office safe January 10th, 2022. Only 3 people had the combination, me, Helen, and Marcus. I changed the locks that afternoon. 2 weeks later, Hartman Oil filed lease applications on adjacent parcels. Coincidence number. Next was a contract draft dated February 18th, 2023. Letterhead Hartman Oil and Gas, Proposed Acquisition Agreement. I read slowly. Purchase Agreement. Samuel Preston seller agrees to sell 800 acres. Section 14, Township 25 North Range, 8 East Osage County, Oklahoma, to Hartman Oil and Gas, LLC buyer for $500. $500,000. Seller relinquishes all mineral rights, surface rights, and future royalties. Buyer assumes all drilling, exploration, and extraction operations. Estimated recoverable reserves $25 million. Seller receives no royalty participation. I stared at the numbers. $500,000 for $25 million. Ginny had underlined the clause about royalties and written in thick red ink, theft. Industry standard royalties are 12 to 25%. Morrison Partnership gives you 75%. Victor's contract gives you 0. I turned the page. Email March 3rd, 2023. Subject line Final Offer. From v.hartman@hartmanoilgas.com to marcuspreston.cpa@marcustime to close this. Your mother's condition is declining. Once she's gone, we move fast. I'll pay you $5 million cash VP title at Hartman Oil and 20% net royalties from the Osage parcel once we acquire it. In return, you get your father to sign over the farm within 90 days of her passing. Use whatever leverage necessary, guardianship, nursing facility, financial pressure. I don't care how. Just get it done. Contract attached. Let me know. V. Marcus's reply, same day, Victor deal. I've already researched facilities. There's a place in Elk City, Sunset Meadows, $2,800 per month. If Dad resists, I'll file for emergency guardianship. My lawyer says it's a slam dunk given his age and recent loss. I'll have him sign a POA and the farm transfers to me as conservator. Once it's mine, I'll sell to you for the agreed price, targeting April to May timeline. M. I read it twice. My hands shook. I set the email down and stared at the wall. Marcus had sold me, sold the farm, sold Ginny's legacy, all for $5 million and a title, while she was dying. At the bottom of the folder was one more document, a handwritten note from Ginny dated September 30th, 2022. Sam, by now you've read the evidence. I know this is unbearable, but you need to understand I built a legal wall around you. The farm is in an irrevocable trust. Marcus cannot touch it. The ethics clause in Section 47C of the trust document explicitly names Victor Hartman. If Marcus attempts any transaction with Victor, or any entity Victor controls, Marcus forfeits his entire inheritance and faces federal fraud charges. Helen has copies. The FBI has copies. It's ironclad. I've also secured a partnership with Morrison Energy. They'll drill at no cost to you. You keep 75% of net royalties. Industry standard is 12% to 25%. 75% is unheard of. I negotiated it because you deserve it. Because this is your land, your future. Victor's contract would have stolen everything. Do not negotiate with him. Do not negotiate with Marcus. Let Helen handle it. Trust the people I trusted, Helen, Morrison Energy, and Earl Patterson. You'll meet him. And Sam, don't forgive Marcus. I wanted to. I tried. But some betrayals are too deep. Protect yourself. I love you. Ginny. I closed the folder. The farmhouse was dark now, only the last red glow of sunset through the window. I sat in silence. The blue folder on my lap, my chest hollow. Ginny had fought a war I didn't even know was happening. While I was reading to her at night, holding her hand, she was gathering evidence, building legal traps, negotiating contracts, protecting me from a son who wanted to destroy me and a rival who wanted to steal everything. Outside, the wind picked up. The yellow rose on the porch swayed. Somewhere in the distance, a truck rumbled down the county road. I stood, folded the blue folder, and put it back in the trunk with the red one. Tomorrow, Marcus and Victor would come. I was sure of it. They'd make their final offer, their final threat, and I'd be ready. March 29th, 7 p.m. I was sitting at the card table staring at the closed trunk when I heard boots on the porch steps. 3 slow knocks. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. A man stood in the dim light from the porch bulb, 70-something, weathered face, flannel shirt, work jeans. He held a toolbox in one hand and a paper grocery sack in the other. Sam Preston. Yeah. Earl Patterson. I own the gas station 5 miles east. He nodded toward the road. Ginny asked me to keep an eye on this place. Figured you'd be here tonight. I stepped aside. Come in. Earl set the toolbox and sack on the card table. From the sack, he pulled a thermos, a wrapped sandwich, and a battery-powered lantern. "No electricity out here," he said. "Well's dry, too. Brought you coffee and supper. Lantern'll last the night." "Thank you." He looked at me for a long moment, then pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. "Ginny left this for me 6 months ago. Told me to give you $20,000 cash if you showed up alone. Said you'd need it." He handed me the envelope. It was thick, sealed. "She paid me to watch the farm, fix the fence, keep trespassers off. I did. Nobody's been here except you." I opened the envelope. Inside were 200 $100 bills, neatly stacked. "Earl, Don't thank me. Thank her." He pointed at the trunk. "She spent 2 years getting ready for this. I don't know what's in those folders, but I know your boy and Victor Hartman have been in town the last 3 days, asking about mineral rights. Talking to the county clerk, the assessor, the drilling commission. They're circling." My chest tightened. "How do you know? Small town. Everybody knows everything." Earl crossed his arms. "Ginny told me if they showed up I should warn you. So I'm warning you. They'll be here tomorrow, maybe the day after. Don't sign anything. Don't make deals. Helen Sinclair's got your back. So do I." I nodded slowly. "Ginny told you about Helen." "Told me about a lot of things." He picked up the toolbox. "One more thing. Check the attic again. Northwest corner. There's a metal box behind the insulation marked insurance. Ginny said you'd know what to do with it." He tipped his cap and walked to the door. "I'll be back tomorrow morning with water and a generator. You need anything before then, my number's on the thermos." "Earl." He turned. "Thank you." He nodded once, then disappeared into the dark. I stood in the doorway listening to his truck rumble down the gravel drive. Then I grabbed the flashlight and climbed back up to the barn attic. The metal box was exactly where Earl said it would be, tucked behind pink fiberglass insulation. I pulled it out, blew off the dust, and opened it. Inside were photocopies of everything from the trunk red folder, blue folder trust documents, plus a USB drive labeled Evidence, FBI copy, and a business card. Special Agent Sarah Thompson. Federal Bureau of Investigation, White Collar Crime Division, Oklahoma City Field Office. I slipped the card into my wallet next to Ginny's letters. Then I carried the box down, locked it in the truck, and walked back to the farmhouse. Inside, I poured coffee from Earl's thermos, unwrapped the sandwich turkey Swiss mustard, and ate standing by the window. The fields were dark, the sky full of stars. No streetlights, no traffic. Just wind and silence. I thought about everything I'd learned in the last 12 hours. The embezzlement, the conspiracy, the oil, the trust. Marcus and Victor circling like wolves. And I thought about Ginny's fortress Helen with the legal documents, Earl with the surveillance, the FBI card in my wallet, the ethics clause that would destroy Marcus if he made one wrong move. I was 68 years old, sitting in a farmhouse with no electricity and no running water on top of $25 million in oil I couldn't touch yet. But I wasn't alone. Ginny had built walls around me, and I was standing inside them, protected. I finished the coffee, set the thermos on the table, and walked to the cot. I pulled Ginny's letter from my pocket, the one from the trunk, and read the last line again. "I love you more than I ever said. Trust the farm." I folded it carefully, set it on the card table beside the lantern, and lay down. On the windowsill, I'd placed a jar of water with 3 stems I'd cut from the yellow rose on the porch. They glowed faint gold in the lantern light. Outside, a coyote called. The wind rattled the screen door. I closed my eyes, one hand resting on the folded letter. And for the first time in weeks, I slept. March 31st, 10 a.m. I woke to the sound of gravel crunching under tires. Two vehicles, one engine smooth and quiet, the other heavy diesel. I sat up on the cot, pulled on my boots, and walked to the window. A black Mercedes sedan and a silver Escalade were parked in the dirt yard. Marcus stepped out of the Mercedes suite and tie sunglasses. From the Escalade came a man I didn't recognize, older 70, maybe gray hair, slicked back charcoal vest over a white shirt, no tie. He moved like someone used to being obeyed. Victor Hartman. I grabbed my phone from the card table, made sure the recording from 2 nights ago was still saved, and walked to the porch. Marcus saw me first. He took off his sunglasses. "Dad, we need to talk." "No, we don't." Victor stepped forward, hand extended. "Mr. Preston, I'm Victor Hartman. I run an energy company based in Tulsa. I've been following your situation, and I think I can help." I didn't shake his hand. "How?" Victor smiled, thin, practiced. "You're sitting on land that's worth more than you realize. The tax lien, the legal pressure, the uncertainty, it's a lot for a man your age. I'm prepared to make this simple. $10 million cash today. You sign over the deed, I handle the taxes, the lien, everything. You walk away free." I looked at Marcus. "You brought him here." Marcus shifted his weight. "Dad, it's a good offer. More than fair. You don't have to deal with the county, the farm, any of it. Take the money. Move somewhere comfortable." "Comfortable," I repeated, and like Sunset Meadows. Marcus's jaw tightened. Victor glanced between us, confused. I pulled out my phone. "I want to play something for you." I hit play. Marcus's voice came through the speaker, clear and cold. "Drilling rights. The whole section. If he figures out what's under that land. Guardianship petitions ready. Moss said we can file Monday if he doesn't sell. Then we move him into that place in Elk City, and I take over as conservator. After that, the land's ours." Marcus went pale. Victor's smile disappeared. I stopped the recording. That was 2 nights ago. Marcus didn't know I was listening. Victor recovered first. "Mr. Preston, I don't know what you think you heard, but I heard my son conspiring to lock me in a nursing facility so he could steal my land and sell it to you." I looked at Marcus. "How much was he paying you? $5 million AVP title." Marcus said nothing. Victor's voice hardened. "You're making a mistake. That land is worthless without capital, without equipment, without expertise. I'm offering you $10 million, more than you'll ever see otherwise." "Worthless," I said. "Then why are you here?" Victor opened his mouth, then stopped. Marcus stepped forward. "Dad, don't be stupid. The oil under this place—" He stopped. Too late. "Oil," I said quietly. "You just said oil." Marcus closed his eyes. Victor shot him a look that could have cut glass. Then I heard another engine, a white SUV coming up the drive, dust trailing behind it. It parked beside the Escalade. Helen Sinclair stepped out, briefcase in hand. Behind her, a man in his mid-40s khakis and a Morrison Energy polo shirt. Helen walked straight to me, calm, controlled. "Good morning, Sam. I see we have visitors." Victor straightened. "Helen, this is a private conversation." "Not anymore." Helen opened her briefcase and pulled out 2 sets of documents. She handed the first to Victor. "Cease and desist order. You are prohibited from contacting Mr. Preston, making offers on this property, or conducting business related to this land. Violation will result in legal action." Victor glanced at the paper, then at Helen. "On what grounds?" "The irrevocable trust established by Virginia Preston specifically names you, Mr. Hartman, as a prohibited party under Section 47C. Any attempt by Marcus Preston to transfer, sell, or negotiate this property with you or any entity you control results in immediate forfeiture of Marcus's inheritance and exposes both of you to federal fraud charges. Victor's face went still. Helen turned to Marcus. The second set of documents is for you. Notice of trust violation investigation. If you proceed with any guardianship petition, any power of attorney scheme, or any agreement with Mr. Hartman, you lose everything. The mansion, the investments, the retirement accounts, all of it reverts to your father's estate. Marcus stared at the paper in his hands. Helen gestured to the man beside her. This is David Morrison, CEO of Morrison Energy. Mr. Morrison, would you like to explain? Morrison stepped forward, nodded at me. Mr. Preston, your wife and I finalized a drilling partnership 6 months ago. Morrison Energy will begin operations on this site within 60 days. You retain 75% net royalties. The contract was signed yesterday by your attorney acting under the authority granted in Mrs. Preston's trust documents. He looked at Victor. We've already filed lease applications with the Oklahoma Corporation Commission. Your competing applications have been denied. Victor's expression didn't change, but his hands curled into fists. Morrison continued. Drilling starts in May. First production estimates are 15 to 18 months. Mr. Preston will begin receiving royalty payments by late next year. Silence. Victor turned to Marcus. You said this was handled. Marcus said nothing. Victor looked at me one last time. You'll regret this. I doubt it, I said. He walked to the Escalade, climbed in, and drove away without another word. Marcus stood alone in the yard, holding the papers Helen had given him. He looked at me. His mouth opened, closed. His eyes searched mine, looking for something. Forgiveness, maybe. Understanding. I didn't give him either. He folded the papers, slowly slid them into his jacket, and walked to the Mercedes. He sat behind the wheel for a long moment, staring through the windshield at nothing. Then he started the engine and drove away. I watched the dust settle on the empty road. Helen touched my arm. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. David Morrison extended his hand. It's good to finally meet you, Mr. Preston. Ginny spoke about you often. I'm sorry for your loss. I shook his hand. Thank you. Helen closed her briefcase. We'll be back next week to go over the drilling timeline. For now, rest. You've earned it. They left. The yard was quiet again, just wind and wheat and the yellow rose swaying on the porch. I sat down on the steps and stared at the horizon. It was over. Marcus was gone. Victor was gone. And I was still standing. I whispered, We did it, Ginny. The wind carried my voice across the fields, and for a moment I thought I heard her answer. April 1st, 11 a.m. Helen and David Morrison sat across from me at the card table in the farmhouse. Earl had brought the table in that morning along with 3 folding chairs, a cooler of bottled water, and a portable generator humming outside. The farmhouse finally had lights. Helen spread a set of documents across the table. We need to talk about what happens next. I nodded. Marcus is going to fight this. He already is. Helen pulled out her phone and turned it toward me. An email time-stamped 10:47 a.m. sender Marcus Preston. I read it. Helen, I am formally notifying you that I will file a probate challenge to my mother's will on the grounds of undue influence and lack of testamentary capacity. I will also file an emergency guardianship petition for my father, Samuel Preston, age 68, who is clearly unable to manage complex financial and operational decisions related to oil extraction. He is living without electricity or running water on a dilapidated property. This is elder neglect. I expect you to withdraw your cease and desist order and allow me to act in my father's best interest. Marcus Preston, CPA. Set the phone down. He thinks I'm incompetent. He's trying to invalidate the trust, Helen said. And he's threatening guardianship again. But here's the problem for Marcus: he can't do either without triggering the ethics clause. David Morrison leaned forward. What exactly is the ethics clause? Helen pulled a highlighted page from the trust document. Section 47C. Ginny drafted this 18 months ago with the help of a federal prosecutor. It's ironclad. She looked at me. Sam, your wife, knew Marcus would try to contest the will. So she built a tripwire. How does it work? Helen pointed to the document. Marcus inherited $12 million mansion investments retirement accounts. But that inheritance is conditional. If Marcus takes any of the following actions, he forfeits the entire $12 million and exposes himself to federal prosecution. She read from the highlighted section. No one files any legal challenge to Virginia Preston's will or trust documents. 2 attempts to obtain guardianship, conservatorship, or power of attorney over Samuel Preston through fraudulent claims. 3 enters into any business agreement, partnership, or transaction with Victor Hartman or any entity Victor controls. 4 interferes with Morrison Energy's drilling operations or Samuel Preston's mineral rights. I stared at her. If he sues me, he loses everything, and worse. Helen turned the page. The trust includes a clause that automatically transfers all evidence of Marcus's embezzlement and conspiracy to the FBI if he violates the ethics clause. Bank records, emails, wire transfers, surveillance footage. Ginny documented everything. Wire fraud carries 5 to 10 years in federal prison. David whistled low. She trapped him. Completely. Helen folded her hands. Marcus has 2 choices. He can walk away, keep his $12 million, and live quietly. Or he can fight, lose everything, and go to prison. I thought of Marcus standing in the yard yesterday, staring at me, searching for forgiveness. He's not going to walk away. I know. Helen pulled out a blank document and began writing. That's why I'm sending him a 48-hour warning. If he files any petition by end of business April 3rd, the ethics clause triggers immediately. I'll notify the probate court, the FBI, and the federal prosecutor Ginny worked with. Marcus will lose the inheritance within 72 hours, and the criminal investigation begins. Will that stop him? Helen looked at me. It should. But I've seen people make stupid decisions out of pride. She capped her pen. If Marcus files, he's betting that a judge will side with him over a dead woman's wishes. That's a bad bet. But ego makes people reckless. David Morrison stood and walked to the window. What about Victor? He's not going to sit still. Victor's smarter than Marcus, Helen said. He knows the trust blocks him. He'll try to work around it. Buy adjacent parcels, lobby the drilling commission, file nuisance complaints. But he can't touch this land. And Morrison Energy already has the lease. David nodded. We start site prep next week. First drill rig arrives in May. Helen gathered the documents. Sam, I need to get this warning letter notarized and filed today. You'll have a copy by tonight. In the meantime, don't respond to Marcus. Don't answer his calls. Don't engage. Let me handle it. What if he shows up here again? Call the sheriff. You have a no-contact order in place. If he violates it, he goes to jail. Helen zipped her briefcase. This is almost over. Marcus has 48 hours to make a choice. My guess is he'll back down once he reads the consequences. She stood. David shook my hand. We'll be in touch, Mr. Preston. You're in good hands. They left. The generator hummed outside. The farmhouse was quiet. I sat alone at the table and reread the ethics clause summary Helen had left behind. If Marcus Preston 1 contests the will, 2 files for guardianship, 3 deals with Victor Hartman, or 4 interferes with mineral rights. Then Marcus Preston forfeits $12,000. 000 inheritance and evidence transfers to FBI wire fraud embezzlement conspiracy 5 to 10 years federal prison. Ginny had thought of everything. She'd built a legal cage around Marcus so tight he couldn't move without destroying himself. But I knew my son. Pride didn't listen to logic. He'd spent 18 months planning to take this farm. He'd stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars. He'd tried to lock me in a nursing home. And yesterday, he'd stood in this yard offering $10 million like he owned the place. Would he really walk away now? I thought of the email. I will file a probate challenge, not I'm considering, not I may, I will. Marcus thought he could win, thought a judge would look at me 68, living in a farmhouse with no running water, and declare me incompetent. Thought he could override Ginny's trust, take control, sell to Victor, and walk away rich. He didn't understand. The trust wasn't just a document. It was Ginny's last stand, and she'd made it unbreakable. I folded the ethics clause summary and put it in my wallet next to her letters. Outside, the wind picked up. The yellow rose swayed on the porch. In the distance, a hawk circled over the wheat fields. 48 hours. By April 3rd, Marcus would make his choice. And I'd find out if my son still had enough sense to save himself. I stood, walked to the window, and stared at the empty road. Marcus thought he could win. Thought a judge would side with him. But he didn't understand the trust wasn't just a document. It was Ginny's last stand. And she'd made it unbreakable. I turned off the lights, locked the door, and walked outside. 48 hours. April 3rd, 3 p.m. I was sitting on the porch steps, watching the wheat fields bend in the wind, when my phone rang. Helen Sinclair. Sam, it's over. I stood. What do you mean? Marcus withdrew all petitions. His lawyer called me 20 minutes ago. Exact words, my client wishes to avoid further conflict and accepts the terms of the trust. Helen's voice was calm, but I heard the edge of satisfaction. No probate challenge, no guardianship petition, no contact with Victor Hartman. He's walking away. I sat back down. My chest loosened like a fist I'd been holding tight for weeks had finally unclenched. You're sure? Positive. I have the withdrawal notices in writing, signed by Marcus and his attorney, filed with the probate court 10 minutes ago. She paused. He also sent you an email. I'm forwarding it now. My phone buzzed. I opened the email. From marcuspreston.cpa at ... to sampreston1955 at ... Date April 3rd, 2023, 2:43 p.m. Subject Final Communication, Dad. My lawyer has advised me to withdraw all legal actions. I accept the terms of Mom's will. I keep the house, the investments, and the retirement accounts. You keep the farm. We're done. I don't want further conflict. I'm asking you, don't contact me. I need to move forward with my life. Marcus. I read it twice. Cold. Clinical. Like he was closing a business deal. No apology, no acknowledgement of what he'd done. Just we're done. I thought of Ginny's folders. The timeline. The surveillance photos. The emails to Victor. The Sunset Meadows contract signed while she was dying. I hit reply and typed. Marcus, you stole from your mother while she was bedridden and dying. You forged her signature, lied to banks, and conspired with her competitor to lock me in a facility so you could sell land that wasn't yours. You planned all of this 18 months in advance. You're not my son. Don't contact me. If you do, I'll have Helen file the evidence with the FBI regardless of the ethics clause. You'll lose everything and go to prison. I'm blocking your number. Don't test me. Sam Preston, I sent it. Then I blocked Marcus's number, his email, and Jessica's number. Helen was still on the line. Sam. I sent him a reply. Then I blocked him. Silence. Then Helen said quietly, "Good. Is that it? Is it really over?" Yes. The trust is ironclad. Marcus has no legal recourse. Victor can't touch the land. Morrison Energy has the lease. You're protected. She paused. Ginny built this, Sam. She thought of everything. All you have to do now is live. Thank you, Helen. You don't need to thank me. I'm just glad she trusted me to help. Her voice softened. I'll be in touch next week about the drilling schedule. For now, rest. You've earned it. She hung up. I sat on the porch, phone in my hand, staring at the blocked contact screen. Marcus Preston. Son. Blocked. I thought I'd feel something, grief, maybe. Regret. But all I felt was emptiness. Like a chapter I didn't want to read had finally ended. I thought of him as a kid. 8 years old, building a birdhouse in the garage with me frustrated because the nails kept bending. I'd shown him how to hold the hammer, how to angle the strike. When he finally got it right, he'd looked up at me with this huge grin. I did it, Dad. That boy was gone. Maybe he'd been gone for years. Maybe he'd never really existed. I put the phone in my pocket and walked inside. An hour later, Earl showed up. I heard his truck pull into the yard, the door slam. He climbed the porch steps, a 6-pack of bottled water in one hand. Heard you might need company, he said. I opened the door. How'd you know? Helen called me. Said Marcus backed down. Figured you'd be sitting here alone thinking too much. He handed me the water. Thought you could use a visitor. We sat on the porch steps. Earl cracked open a bottle, took a long drink. I did the same. For a while, neither of us spoke. Just the wind through the wheat, the creak of the barn door. Finally, Earl said, Ginny told me something once. About Marcus. I looked at him. This was back when she first got sick. She'd drive out here to check on the farm, and sometimes she'd stop by my station for coffee. One day, she sat at the counter for an hour just staring at her cup. I asked if she was okay. She said, I'm trying to figure out when I lost my son. My throat tightened. Earl continued. I told her maybe she didn't lose him. Maybe he just chose a different path. She shook her head, said Marcus was born wanting more. More money, more status, more proof that he mattered. I thought if I gave him enough, he'd be satisfied. But there's no enough. Not for him. Earl looked at me. Then she said, That's his choice. Not my failure. Not Sam's failure. His. I stared at the wheat fields. I keep thinking I should have seen it. Should have stopped it. How? Earl's voice was gentle but firm. He's a grown man. He made his choices. Ginny knew that. That's why she didn't confront him. She knew he wouldn't change. So she built walls to protect you instead. I nodded slowly. She spent 2 years doing it. Yeah, and it worked. Earl drained his bottle. Marcus is gone. You're still here. The farm's yours. That's what she wanted. We sat in silence for a few more minutes. Then Earl stood, clapped me on the shoulder. I'll check on you tomorrow. You need anything, call. Thanks, Earl. He walked to his truck, paused at the door. Sam. Yeah, Ginny was proud of you. She told me that too. He climbed in and drove away. That night I sat at the card table with a pen and a notebook Earl had left behind. The generator hummed outside. The lantern cast warm light across the page. I wrote April 3rd, 2023. Today I lost a son. Marcus withdrew all legal challenges. He keeps the mansion, the investments, the $12 million. I keep the farm. We will never speak again. I thought I would feel grief, but I don't. I feel relief. He made his choices. He stole from Ginny while she was dying. He conspired with her enemy. He tried to lock me away. Those were his choices, not mine. Ginny knew. She saw it coming. She spent 2 years building walls to protect me. And it worked. I paused, stared at the page. Then I wrote, "Today I gained a future. 800 acres, an oil field worth millions, a partnership that will let me live the rest of my life without fear. A legacy Ginny left because she loved me. I'm 68 years old. I'm starting over. And for the first time in months, I'm not afraid." I set the pen down and closed the notebook. Outside, the wind rattled the screen door. The yellow rose swayed on the porch. I thought of Ginny in her hard hat, standing in the wheat field, saying, "This land has been good to us, Sam. It's got one more gift left." She'd been right. I turned off the lantern, lay down on the cot, and closed my eyes. Tomorrow, Morrison Energy would start site prep. Tomorrow, the future would begin. But tonight I just rested. May 1st, 10 a.m. David Morrison pulled into the farmhouse yard in a white Morrison Energy pickup briefcase in hand. I'd been waiting on the porch, coffee mug half empty, watching the wheat turn gold in the morning light. He climbed the steps, shook my hand. "Morning, Mr. Preston. Ready to make this official?" "Yeah." We sat at the card table inside. David opened his briefcase and spread a contract across the table. 30 pages, tabs marking signature lines. "This is the drilling partnership agreement Ginny and I finalized last October. Let me walk you through it." I pulled the contract closer. First, David said, "Morrison Energy funds all drilling operations. Estimated cost $8 to $10 million. You pay nothing. We handle permits, equipment, labor, everything." I nodded. "Second, you retain 100% ownership of the land. The lease grants us mineral extraction rights, but the farm stays yours. If you sell it someday, the royalty agreement transfers with the deed." "Okay." Third, you receive 75% of net royalties. That's after we deduct operational costs, maintenance, transportation taxes. It's extraordinary. Ginny negotiated hard for that. I thought of her sitting across from David, sick and determined, fighting for me even as cancer ate her alive. "How much will that be?" Geological surveys estimate recoverable reserves at $25 million over the field's lifespan, likely 20 to 30 years. Depending on production rates, you're looking at $2 to $3 million per year. Some years more, some less. 2 to 3 million per year. For the rest of my life. David turned the page. Fourth, we've set up a trust fund. $500,000 managed by Sterling Wealth. It generates approximately $4,200 per month starting July 1st. That's your income while we're drilling. Once production starts, estimated 18 months, you'll receive quarterly royalty payments on top of the trust income. I stared at the number, $4,200 a month. More than double my teacher's pension. "You okay?" David asked. "Yeah, it's a lot." "It is, but it's what Ginny wanted." He pointed to the signature lines. "I need you to sign here, here, and here. Then we file with the state and drilling starts May 15th. I signed. My hand shook slightly, but the signatures held. David countersigned, slid copies into a folder, and handed it to me. Congratulations, Mr. Preston. You're officially an oil man. I laughed, short surprised. I taught history for 40 years. I don't know a damn thing about oil. You don't need to. That's what we're here for. David stood, shook my hand again. Crew arrives next week. I'll keep you updated every step. He left. I sat alone at the table, staring at the contract. 75%. 2 to 3 million a year. 4,200 a month starting July. Ginny had done this. While I was holding her hand reading to her, she'd been building an empire for me. I folded the contract and put it in the trunk with her letters. May 15th, 7 a.m. I woke to the sound of diesel engines and men shouting. I pulled on jeans and walked outside. The field behind the barn was full of trucks. Flatbeds hauling steel beams, a crane, a trailer full of drilling equipment. 20 men in hard hats and high-vis vests swarmed the site, setting up barriers, unloading pipe. A man in his 50s, barrel-chested, walked over. "You Mr. Preston?" "Yeah." "Caleb Miller, foreman." He shook my hand. "We're setting up the first derrick. Should be operational by week's end." That fast. Mrs. Preston did all the groundwork. Permits filed, geological surveys done, site prep complete. All we have to do is drill. He pointed to a spot 200 yards out marked with orange flags. She chose that exact location, October 22nd, 2022. Said the surveys showed the richest pocket right there. I stared at the flags. October, a month after she'd discovered Marcus's embezzlement. While she was setting traps, gathering evidence, she was also planning this. She was thorough, I said quietly. Best client I ever worked with. Carlos clapped me on the shoulder. "We'll do right by her. You'll see." I watched them work all day. By evening, the skeletal frame of the derrick rose against the sky, 30 feet tall and climbing. Earl stopped by around 6, brought sandwiches. We sat on the porch and watched the crew bolt crossbeams into place. "Ginny would have loved this," Earl said. "Yeah. Heard Morrison's hiring local. 10 full-time jobs, 20 seasonal. Good for the town." "Yeah. Gas station's been busier this week than the last 6 months combined." He grinned. "You're a job creator now, Sam," I laughed. Never thought I'd hear that. We sat in silence as the sun set, the derrick silhouetted against orange sky. July 25th, 2 p.m. I was fixing the porch railing when I heard shouting from the drill site. I dropped the hammer and ran. The crew was gathered around the derrick, slapping backs, hooting. Carlos saw me and waved me over. We hit it. I pushed through the crowd. At the base of the derrick, black liquid pooled in a collection tray. Thick, shimmering, unmistakable. Oil. Carlos grinned. 800 barrels a day, preliminary estimate. That's strong, Mr. Preston. Real strong. I stared at the black pool. It didn't look like $2 million a year. It looked like mud. But it wasn't mud. It was my future. How long until production? Full extraction setup 6 weeks. But you're looking at your first royalty check by this time next year. I nodded, throat tight. The crew celebrated around me, high fives, jokes. Someone opened a cooler of beer, but I just stood there staring at the oil. Ginny had known. She'd known it was here. She'd fought to protect it, and she'd won. July 28th. Evening, I replanted the yellow rose. The whiskey barrel had cracked over the summer heat, so I dug a proper hole at the corner of the porch, mixed in compost Earl had brought, and carefully transferred the bush. It had grown new shoots, bright green leaves, buds just starting to form. I watered it until the soil was dark, then sat on the porch steps and looked out at the derrick. Floodlights lit the site, now the crew working night shifts to finish the extraction setup. The hum of machinery carried across the fields. In the distance, the sun was setting red and gold, bleeding across the horizon. I walked out to the derrick. Oil flowed through clear pipes into a storage tank, steady and black. I stood beside the derrick, one hand on the cold steel, and watched the oil flow. 75% of this was mine. Enough to live on for the rest of my life. Enough to never worry about money again. Enough to do something bigger than myself. I thought of Ginny and her hard hat, standing in this exact spot, pointing at geological maps, telling David Morrison, "Drill here." I whispered, "Thank you, Ginny." The wind carried my voice across the fields. The derrick hummed. The oil flowed. And for the first time since she'd passed, I felt whole. August 10th, 6 p.m. I was sitting on the porch watching the derrick lights flicker on as the sun set when Earl's truck pulled into the yard. He climbed out, phone in hand. "You seen the news?" "No. Why?" He held up his phone. A video was playing. Local Tulsa news reporter standing in front of a glass office building downtown. The Chiron read, "Oil exec arrested. Federal charges." I took the phone. The reporter's voice was crisp, professional. Victor Hartman, CEO of Hartman Oil and Gas, was arrested this morning by FBI agents at his Tulsa headquarters. Federal prosecutors have charged Hartman with wire fraud conspiracy to commit fraud and industrial espionage. According to court documents unsealed today, the investigation began in late 2021 and was based on evidence provided by Virginia Caldwell Preston, founder of Morrison Energy Solutions, who served as a confidential FBI informant until her passing in February of this year. I stopped the video, stared at the screen. Ginny, FBI informant. Earl watched me. "You didn't know?" "No." She was working with them the whole time. I handed the phone back, my hands numb. She never told me. Probably didn't want to put you at risk. Earl pocketed the phone. "Victor's going down, Sam. Federal case. They don't arrest guys like him unless it's airtight." I nodded slowly. My chest felt tight. Ginny had been fighting a war on two fronts. Marcus and Victor and I hadn't known about either until she was gone. Earl squeezed my shoulder. "I'll leave you be. Call if you need anything." He left. I sat on the porch steps, staring at the derrick, trying to make sense of it. 20 months. September 2021 to February 2023. The whole time she was sick, she'd been feeding evidence to the FBI, meeting with agents, building a case, and she'd never said a word. The next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Mr. Preston, this is Special Agent Sarah Thompson, FBI White Collar Crime Division. I believe you have my card." I pulled out my wallet. The card from the insurance box. "Yeah, I have it. We need to talk. Can I come out to the farm this afternoon?" "Okay." She arrived at 2. Mid-40s, dark suit badge clipped to her belt. She shook my hand, businesslike, but not unkind. We sat at the card table. She opened a briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Your wife contacted us in September 2021. She discovered evidence that Victor Hartman was engaged in industrial espionage, stealing proprietary geological data, bribing county officials, attempting to manipulate lease auctions. She also informed us that her son was involved." I nodded. "I know. I found the folders. The blue folder, Victor Hartman Conspiracy. Yeah. That's what we used to build the case. Your wife was meticulous. Every email, every wire transfer, every meeting, she documented it all. She met with us monthly for 20 months. Even after her diagnosis, she insisted on continuing." Torres closed the folder. "She was one of the most dedicated informants I've ever worked with." My throat tightened. What happens now? We've arrested Victor. He's being held without bail. Trial's set for next spring. We expect a conviction. The evidence is overwhelming. He's looking at 15 to 20 years federal prison. And Marcus? Torres's expression shifted slightly. We approached him 3 days ago, offered immunity in exchange for testimony against Victor. He accepted. I stared at her. He gets nothing. No prison time. Immunity means he testifies truthfully and we don't prosecute him for conspiracy or wire fraud. But he's not walking away clean. He'll lose his CPA license. His reputation's finished. And if he lies on the stand, the immunity deal voids, and we charge him with perjury on top of everything else. I nodded slowly. Marcus would testify. He'd throw Victor under the bus to save himself. It was exactly what I expected. We'll need your testimony too, Torres said. You're a victim, the embezzlement, the guardianship scheme, the nursing facility contract. Your testimony corroborates your wife's evidence. When? Next week. We'll depose you at my office in Oklahoma City. Shouldn't take more than a few hours. Okay. She stood, handed me her card again. If Marcus contacts you, don't engage. Let me know immediately. The immunity deal prohibits him from interfering with witnesses. He won't contact me. I blocked him. Good. She shook my hand. Your wife did an incredible thing, Mr. Preston. She protected you, built a case, and took down one of the most corrupt operators in Oklahoma oil. You should be proud of her. I am. She left. I sat alone at the table, staring at the folder she'd left behind. A copy of Ginny's FBI statements, transcripts of her meetings, photos of Victor's office emails between Marcus and Victor. 20 months. She'd carried this alone. August 13th. My phone rang, blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Dad, it's Marcus. I need to talk to you. The FBI came to me. They're offering immunity if I testify. I don't know what to do. Can you call me back, please? I deleted the voicemail. August 18th. Helen called. Sam, I wanted you to hear it from me. Marcus signed the immunity deal. He's testifying against Victor in exchange for no prison time. But the state bar revoked his CPA license this morning. He's also been fired from his consulting firm. It's all over the Tulsa Business News. Good. There's more. He tried to sell the Southern Hills house. No buyers. The scandal's attached to his name now. He's radioactive. I thought of the mansion. The mahogany table where Helen had read the will. The office Marcus had demolished. He made his choices. Yes, he did. Helen paused. How are you doing? I'm okay. Oil production's on schedule. Yeah, Carlos says we're on track for first royalty checks next summer. Good. I'll check in next month. She hung up. I stood, walked to the bedroom, and pulled open the drawer of the card table. Inside was the last photo I had of Marcus High School graduation, 1993 cap and gown, grinning at the camera. I'd kept it through everything. Through the eviction, the POA, the confrontation. I'd told myself it was a reminder of who he used to be. But that boy was gone. Maybe he'd never existed. I tore the photo in half, then in quarters. I walked outside and dropped the pieces into the burn barrel Earl had set up last month. I struck a match, dropped it in. The photo curled and blackened. Smoke rose into the evening air. I stood there watching it burn and whispered, "You chose your path. I chose mine." The smoke drifted across the wheat fields. The derrick hummed in the distance. The yellow rose swayed on the porch. I turned and walked inside. Tomorrow I'd drive to Oklahoma City and give my testimony. Tomorrow I'd help put Victor Hartman in prison. But tonight I was done with Marcus. for good. September 15th, 2024. The mail carrier knocked on the farmhouse door at 10 a.m. I wasn't expecting anything, just the usual Bill's ads for tractor parts. But she handed me a certified envelope, thick and official. Morrison Energy Solutions. Return address, Tulsa. I signed for it, closed the door, and sat at the card table. My hands shook as I tore it open. Inside was a check and a 2-page royalty report. I unfolded the report first. Morrison Energy Solutions. Royalty statement period. Q2 2024. April 1st to June 30th, 2024. Property Preston Farm Section 14, Township 25, North Range 8 East, Osage County, Oklahoma. Production 72, 0 barrels. Average price per barrel $68. Gross revenue $4,896,000. Operating costs, drilling transport taxes $1,200,000. Net revenue $3,696,000. 00 Samuel Preston royalty 75%. $2,772,000. I stared at the number. $2,772,000 for 3 months. I picked up the check. It was real blue ink, Morrison Energy logo, my name typed across the payee line. $2,772,000 and 0 hundredths. I set it down carefully, like it might disappear if I moved too fast. For 20 minutes, I just sat there staring at it. The generator hummed outside. The derrick was visible through the window steel frame, glinting in the morning sun. A crow landed on the porch rail, cawed once, and flew away. Finally, I picked up my phone and called Helen. Sam, everything okay? The check came. The royalty check. That's great. Congratulations. Helen, what do I do with this? She paused. What do you want to do? I looked out the window at the derrick, the wheat fields, the yellow rose blooming at the corner of the porch. I want to do what Ginny would do. Then you know the answer. I did. November 2024. I sat in Helen's office with a legal pad covered in notes. She'd brought in a nonprofit attorney, a woman named Laura Brennan, who specialized in charitable foundations. You're sure about this? Laura asked. $1 million is a significant commitment. I'm sure. Okay. Walk me through your vision. I flipped to the first page of my notes. 3 pillars: education, business, and health. Ginny built her company from nothing. She believed in giving people a chance. I want to do the same. Laura wrote it down. Specifics. Education scholarships, $5,000 each, for kids in Osage County who want to go to college but can't afford it. Priority for students studying science, engineering, business fields Ginny worked in. Good. That's straightforward. Next. Business grants, $20,000 each, for local entrepreneurs starting small businesses, restaurants, shops, service companies. No interest, no repayment required, just a requirement to hire locally. Laura nodded. We can structure that as a forgivable loan with conditions. What's the third pillar? Cancer patient support. Ginny fought for 18 months. I watched the bills pile up: treatments, medications, travel to specialists. A lot of families can't afford that. I want to help cover costs. Medical bills, transportation, lodging, if they have to go out of town for treatment. Laura looked up. That's harder to administer. We'd need partnerships with hospitals' verification processes. Figure it out, I said. That's what I'm paying you for. She smiled slightly. Okay, seed capital. $1 million to start. I'll add more as the royalty checks come in. Helen leaned forward. Sam, you'll be getting over 2 million every quarter. You'll have 10 million in the foundation within 2 years. Good. Then we can help more people. Laura closed her notebook. Last question. What do you want to call it? I didn't hesitate. The Virginia Ginny Caldwell Preston Foundation. April 12, 2025. The Osage County Community Center was packed. 150 people, students, parents, teachers, local business owners filled the folding chairs. A banner hung across the stage. Virginia Ginny Caldwell Preston Foundation, First Annual Scholarship Awards. I stood backstage, hands in my pockets, watching through the curtain. 50 students sat in the front rows, dressed in their best clothes, nervous and excited. 50 kids who'd applied for scholarships. 50 kids who were about to get $5,000 each. Helen touched my arm. You ready? Yeah. I walked onto the stage. The room quieted. I stood at the podium, looked out at the faces, young, hopeful, scared, and took a breath. My name is Sam Preston. Most of you don't know me, but you knew my wife, Ginny. She grew up 20 miles from here. She worked in these oil fields for 40 years. She built a company, employed hundreds of people, and never forgot where she came from. I paused, gripped the podium. Ginny believed that wealth isn't what you keep. It's what you give away. She believed in second chances, hard work, and helping people who just need a little boost to get started. I looked down at my notes, then back up. Today we're awarding 50 scholarships, $5,000 each. That's $250,000 total. It won't cover everything, but it's a start. And here's what I'm asking in return: make her proud. Study hard. Work hard. And when you get where you're going, remember where you came from. Help the next kid who needs it. The room erupted in applause. I stepped back, throat tight, and watched as Helen called names. One by one, the students walked onto the stage, shook my hand, received envelopes. Some cried, some grinned. One girl hugged me so hard I almost fell over. The last name Helen called was Emily Thatcher. She walked onto the stage, 18, dark hair, pulled back hands, shaking slightly. She took the envelope, looked at me. Thank you, Mr. Preston. I want to study petroleum engineering, like Mrs. Preston. I want to be like her. I thought of Ginny in her hard hat standing beside that first derrick in '96. I thought of Agent Torres, the FBI agent who'd worked with Ginny for 20 months. No relation, probably. But the name felt like a sign. Don't be like me, Emily, I said quietly. Be better. Be like her. She nodded, tears streaming down her face, and walked off stage. When the ceremony ended, parents swarmed the stage, shaking my hand, thanking me. I nodded, smiled, said the right things. But inside I was somewhere else. I was in a hospital room, holding Ginny's hand, listening to her whisper, "Trust the farm. Everything you need is there." She'd been right. The farm had given me everything, and now I was giving it back. That night I stood on the farmhouse porch, watching the derrick lights blink in the distance. The yellow rose swayed beside me, full bloom, bright as sunlight. I thought of the 50 students holding their envelopes, 50 futures that might not have existed without Ginny's vision. I felt tears well up, first time since she'd passed. I whispered, "Ginny, this is your legacy." The wind carried my voice across the fields. The derrick hummed, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do, living the life she'd built for me, and making sure it mattered. February 28, 2026. Dawn. I stood in the rose garden, breath misting in the cold air. 70 years old today. 3 years since Ginny passed. The garden had grown. 50 bushes now planted in neat rows along a stone path Earl had helped me lay last summer. At the center stood a wooden bench, simple but sturdy, with a brass plaque bolted to the backrest, Ginny's garden. It was late February. The roses were dormant bare branches dark against the gray sky. But if you looked close, you could see the buds forming tiny green tight as fists. In a month, they'd bloom, yellow, bright as sunlight. I sat on the bench and looked out at the farm. The derrick stood tall in the east field lights blinking steady. Beyond it, the wheat was winter-planted, ankle-high and green. The farmhouse had a new roof, new windows, a generator that didn't sputter out every third night. The barn had been rebuilt, red paint, straight walls, no rust. 3 years ago, I'd been 70 pounds lighter homeless, sitting in a guest room with an eviction notice and a rusted key. No money, no plan, just Ginny's voice in my head. Trust the farm. Now the farm was worth $25 million. Oil royalties came in every quarter, $7.5 million a year, steady as clockwork. The foundation had given away $3 million, 150 scholarships, 60 business grants, 200 cancer patients, helped with medical bills. I thought about Marcus. Last I'd heard through Helen, who still tracked these things, he'd burned through $6 million, $3 million on cryptocurrency schemes that collapsed, $2 million gambling in Vegas, $1 million on a consulting firm that folded after 8 months. Now he was living in Phoenix, selling used cars. Jessica had left him. The Southern Hills house had finally sold, but the money was gone. I didn't feel sorry for him. I didn't feel anything. Victor Hartman was in federal prison. 15-year sentence. He'd be 85 when he got out. If he got out. I heard footsteps on the gravel path. Earl appeared, thermos in hand. 75 now, moving slower but still showing up every week. "Morning, Sam." "Morning." He sat beside me, poured coffee into the thermos cap, handed it over. We sat in silence for a while, watching the sky lighten. "Heard from the university," Earl said. "Emily Thatcher is doing real good. Petroleum engineering. Top of her class." I nodded. "That's what this is all about." "Ginny would be proud." "Yeah." Earl finished his coffee, stood. "I'll let you be. Just wanted to check in." "Thanks, Earl." He walked back to his truck engine, rumbling to life, gravel crunching as he drove away. I pulled a pen and a folded piece of paper from my jacket pocket. I'd been carrying it for a week, not sure what to write. Now I knew. I wrote, "Ginny, today is February 28th, 2026. 3 years since you left. I'm 70 years old. The farm is thriving. The oil field you found is producing $7.5 million a year. The foundation has helped over 400 people. Marcus burned through his inheritance. He's selling used cars in Phoenix. Victor's in prison. They both made their choices. I miss you. I think about you every day. I see you in the yellow roses, in the derrick lights, in every scholarship check we send out. But I'm okay. I'm better than okay. You made sure of that. You spent 2 years building walls around me, protecting me, planning for this. And it worked. I don't know how much time I have left, but I know what I'm doing with it. I'm living the life you built for me, and I'm making sure it matters. Thank you for everything, for 40 years, for this farm, for believing I could do this. I love you. Sam." I folded the letter, walked back to the farmhouse and unlocked the trunk. Inside were Ginny's letters, the one from the will reading the one from the barn attic, the notes she'd left in folders. I placed my letter on top, closed the lid, and locked it. Then I walked back outside into the garden and watched the sun rise over the wheat fields. 3 years. A lifetime. A beginning. The roses would bloom soon, and I'd be here to see them. February 28th, 2026. I woke at 6, as I had every morning for 3 years. The farmhouse no longer creaked. I'd hired Earl's nephew to shore up the joists last spring. The yellow roses Ginny planted, the ones I'd dug up from the mansion garden and replanted here, were dormant, now their branches bare against the gray sky. But in a few weeks, they'd bloom again. They always did. I poured coffee, opened the kitchen window, and heard the low hum of 10 oil derricks across the east field. The sound had become as familiar as my own breathing. 3 years ago, this land had looked worthless, a patch of dirt nobody wanted. Today, it was producing enough oil to change lives far beyond these 800 acres, reaching families in 3 states who'd never heard of Osage County or a woman named Ginny Preston. Ginny had left me 3 gifts. The first was the farm itself, a lesson that value isn't always visible on the surface. Sometimes you have to dig deep past the weeds and rust and rot to find what's really there. The second was fortune proof that money without integrity is just paper numbers on a screen that vanish the moment you stop protecting them. The third was purpose. The understanding that legacy isn't built after you die. It's built while you're still breathing, one decision at a time, one life at a time. Marcus had received $12 million in cash investments and property. He'd burned through $6 million in 2 years, $3 million on a cryptocurrency scheme that collapsed within 8 months, $2 million gambling in Vegas casinos where they knew him by name, $1 million on a failed consulting firm that never landed a single client. His wife Jessica left him last fall, took their dog, and moved back to her parents' place in Edmond. Now Marcus sells used cars in Phoenix, living in a 1-bedroom apartment. He rents month to month, working for a dealership that pays him on commission. Victor Hartman sits in a federal prison in Oklahoma, serving year 3 of a 15-year sentence. His oil empire, the one he'd spent 30 years building, was dissolved by court order. His name, once respected in boardrooms across the Southwest, is mud. His assets were seized. His partnerships dissolved, his reputation destroyed. I feel no anger toward either of them anymore, only gratitude. They'd given me a gift without knowing it. They'd shown me exactly who I didn't want to become. The foundation Ginny envisioned is thriving. I live on $60,000 a year, enough for groceries, utilities, and the occasional dinner in Tulsa. The rest, about $7.5 million annually, goes directly to the Virginia Ginny Caldwell Preston Fund. Over the past 3 years, we've awarded scholarships to kids who couldn't afford college, launched small businesses for families who couldn't get bank loans, and helped families facing cancer treatment costs they couldn't pay. Hundreds of lives have been touched. Thousands more will be in the decades ahead. Yesterday, Earl stopped by with a thermos of his wife's sweet tea. He's 75 now, still sharp as a tack, still checking the fences every morning, like Ginny asked him to. He brought news. Emily Thatcher, the young woman who'd reminded me so much of Ginny at the first scholarship ceremony 2 years ago, was topping her petroleum engineering class at the University of Oklahoma. She'd graduate in 2029. Earl said probably start her own firm within 5 years after that. That's what this is all about, I told him, staring out at the derricks. Earl nodded slowly. Ginny knew, he said. She always knew. We sat on the porch in silence for a while, watching the derricks pump in steady rhythm. Do you ever regret it? Earl finally asked. How not forgiving Marcus? I thought about that question, turned it over in my mind, the way Ginny used to turn over rocks looking for fossils. I regret that he made forgiveness impossible, I said. But I don't regret protecting what Ginny built. She fought a war I didn't even know was happening. The least I could do was finish it. Earl stood to leave, clapped me on the shoulder with his calloused hand. She picked the right man, he said quietly. That evening I walked out to the east field as the sun dropped low. Caleb Miller, the drilling foreman Morrison Energy hired 3 years ago, met me by well number 11, the newest one brought online just last month. We hit 1,200 barrels a day on this one, Sam, he said, grinning wide enough to show the gap in his front teeth. Biggest strike yet. Your wife knew what she was doing. I stared at the black pool shimmering under the floodlights, the oil flowing steady and strong. 1,200 barrels a day. Ginny had mapped this exact spot herself 2 months before she died. Marked it on a geological survey with a red circle and the words, "Drill here first." She'd known it was here all along. She'd be proud, Carlos said softly. I nodded, unable to speak. My throat was too tight. In the field's northeast corner stands a granite plaque we installed last spring. Virginia Ginny Caldwell Preston, 1959 to 2023. Geologist, visionary, wife. Beneath her name, the words she'd written in her final letter. She trusted the farm. It trusted her back. I knelt in the dirt, brushed dust from the stone with my sleeve, and placed a dried yellow rose at its base, one I'd pressed last summer, between the pages of her old geology textbook. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of diesel and soil and something else I couldn't name. For a moment, I felt her beside me, not in any mystical way, but in the work we'd done together. The lives we'd changed, the legacy we'd built, one scholarship and one well at a time. Tomorrow, I'll drive into Tulsa for the Foundation's quarterly board meeting. We'll review scholarship applications, approve business grants, plan next year's ceremony. Emily Thatcher will probably be there. She volunteers now, mentoring younger students the way Ginny once mentored her. Marcus will still be in Phoenix selling cars. Victor will still be in prison staring at concrete walls until 2038. And I'll keep waking at 6, walking the garden, checking the wells, writing letters to Ginny that no one will ever read but me. 3 years ago, I was 68, homeless, and holding a key to a farm I'd never seen. Everyone told me the land was worthless. They were wrong. The farm wasn't the treasure. The fight for it was. And the man Ginny loved had learned at last to trust not just the land, but the woman who'd seen what he could not. And the farm had trusted him back. I'm 70 years old now, and when people ask what I learned from all this, I tell them, don't be like me in one way. Don't wait until crisis forces your hand to understand what truly matters. This family story taught me that legacy isn't built in comfort. It's forged in the moments when everything falls apart and you have to decide who you really are. My dad's revenge wasn't revenge at all. It was protection. It was honoring the woman who spent her final years building walls around me when I didn't even know I needed them. Some call it justice. I call it love. But here's my advice: don't let betrayal consume you. Marcus chose his path. I chose mine. The difference: I chose purpose over bitterness. The lesson from this family story is simple: wealth without integrity is worthless. Money is a tool, not a trophy. What you do with it defines you more than how much you have. Ginny understood that. She left me more than oil, she left me a roadmap for meaning. If there's a dad revenge story here, it's this: the best response to those who try to destroy you isn't hatred. It's building something so good, so lasting, that their cruelty becomes irrelevant. 400 lives changed. Scholarships, businesses, cancer patients supported. That's the ultimate dad revenge, proving that goodness outlasts greed. And faith. The Lord works in mysterious ways. Ginny's illness looked like an ending. It was actually the beginning. Trust in God and the people who love you and the land beneath your feet. That's what saves you when everything else fails. This family story ends here, but yours doesn't. Protect what matters. Build something bigger than yourself. And when betrayal comes, because it will choose purpose over poison. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Now go build your own legacy. Make it count. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Drop a comment and share your thoughts. What would you do if you found yourself in Sam's situation? Inheriting a farm while facing betrayal from your own son? I genuinely want to hear your perspective. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing so you won't miss future videos. A gentle reminder, while inspired by real themes of family inheritance, oilfield fortunes, and personal betrayal, certain elements have been dramatized for storytelling purposes. If this content doesn't align with your preferences, feel free to explore other videos that might suit you better. Either way, thank you for being here. 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 Thank you for being